I am Ferdinand Marcos, and I am the President of the Republic of the Philippines. I stand today on behalf of 110 million Filipinos.
Floor now to questions from FOCAP members. May I call on Mr. Ken Sasaki of Kyoto News. Ken?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's a great honor to meet you in DC last week and also here in Manila. I wish to ask you about the historical Trilateral Summit held in DC. The joint vision statement announced the establishment of Trilateral Maritime Dialogue to cope with collective response and coordination, to enhance coordination. What is this dialogue meant for? Is it to respond to the illegal and dangerous actions in the West Philippine Sea? And when and where and by who the first meeting will be held? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, I think it bears explanation. First of all, the Trilateral Agreement, as I was explaining when I was in Washington, D.C., was that it is not a response to the immediate occurrences, incidents that are happening to us, with us, around us. But really a continuing development and evolution of the relationship that we have always had with the United States and with Japan. And in truth, it formalizes what the U.S. and Japan and the Philippines have already been doing together. Now, of course, security and defense are a great part of that Trilateral Agreement. But an even greater part of the Trilateral Agreement are the economic cooperations that are being fostered by the Trilateral Agreement. We went during the summit with Prime Minister Kishida and President Joe Biden. We went into quite a bit of detail as to what those areas are: semiconductors, renewables, transfer of technology, green minerals. All of these things were spoken about. And that plays an essential part of that Trilateral Agreement. So it is not directed at anyone or against anyone. It is merely a strengthening or a formalization and institutionalizing, I suppose, the relationship of the United States, Japan, and the Philippines. Now, the security and defense part of that Trilateral Agreement, of course, speaks of interoperability, speaks of joint exercises, which seem to be perfectly, which we have been doing, again, we have already been doing before, but we have now put it down on paper in a formal document as to what we plan and how that partnership will continue to evolve as time goes on. So when it comes to the security and defense aspect, of the South China Sea, of the West Philippine Sea, really what the aim of the Trilateral Agreement, but it's not only the United States, Japan, and the Philippines. It's very many other countries all around the region, and even as far as EU, as far as North America, is really to maintain the freedom of navigation along the South China Sea, simply because it is a recognition that the world right now is still having to recover from the pandemic economy, from the shocks that came from the the war in Ukraine, and then now the Middle East. We just had a big escalation with Iran attacking Israel. So these are the elements that we are having to deal with. These are the shocks that are completely beyond our control. So we have to maintain commerce, we have to maintain the peace, we have to maintain stability. And that's what really the point of the Trilateral Agreement is so that we provide for ourselves in the region, in the Indo-Pacific region, an area of peace and stability so that we can all find our way in this new global economy, post-pandemic economy. And I think that's really the point of the Trilateral Agreement.
Follow-up question, Ken?
Thank you, President. Also, this statement mentioned, as you mentioned, that about the HADR exercises, trilateral ones, and that can be integrated in the maritime activities, such as Batan 2025. Does it mean that the Japanese Self-Defense Force can be a regular member of this Batan exercise? And how and when the first HADR exercise would take place? Thank you.
Well, Batan is traditionally between the Philippines, which together with the Philippines and the U.S., this is part of our mutual defense treaty that we hold these exercises every year. Now, with the inclusion of Japan into some of these exercises that we've been doing, not only Balikatan but others, I don't see any reason why Japan should not be part of those exercises in the future. And that again is, I think, is a good move for us to make, simply because it will make it easier for us to work together and to coordinate together, and again, so that we can do the most, focus where the problems are, to maximize the resources that we have, so that we can maintain the peace and stability and freedom of navigation, and adhere totally and completely and constantly to the rule of international law, and specifically the UNCLOS.
So the
Thank you.
can be trilateral next year.
I cannot hear. I'm sorry?
So the Batan can be trilateral exercise next year.
Well, we'll see about that. You're not the first person to mention it, and I think that may be something that we can study. So we'll let us just do this Balikatan now. The Balikatan exercise that we are coming into now are the largest exercises that we have ever had, the most complex, and it touches on areas that we have never really had to deal with before, specifically cyber security, command and control, all of these things that we did not that previously we had not included in our coordinative efforts for Balikatan. So let's get through that, and then after that we'll look again how the Trilateral Agreement has allowed us to more options to include Japan. And we'll see. And I for one have no objection to such an idea.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
May we have Mr. Noriyuki Sakai of NHK, please?
Yes. Thank you for taking my questions, President.
Of course.
So my question is regarding about the West Philippine Sea and also the Mutual Defense Treaty. Despite a Yungin incident recently where some soldiers were injured, President, you said that there were no reason to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. So under what conditions would it possibly be invoked?
I think Secretary Austin explained it very well. If any Filipino serviceman is killed by an attack from any foreign power, then that is time to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. I actually, when I spoke to him in Washington, I thanked him for making it very, very clear to everyone, and he did precisely that. He was asked the same question that we are all asked: when do you invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty? When does it kick into action? And he said that if a Filipino serviceman is killed because of an attack or an aggressive action by another foreign power.
I see. So just a follow-up. So the treaty be invoked against also the patrol vessels or the maritime militias rather than the military?
Well, as long as they have actually caused casualties and has killed the servicemen, then that whatever their designations are, whether they're merchant marine or Coast Guard or actual gray vessels or Navy vessels, it does not matter. That is an attack on the Philippines by a foreign power.
Thank you so much. The next question will be asked by Ms. Alison Jackson of the Agence France-Presse.
Does the Philippines have a plan to give the US military access to more Philippine bases as part of EDCA, such as building one on Batan? And are you concerned that such a move could provoke even stronger actions? Sorry, could you hear me, sir?
I can, yes.
You can, okay. Let me just start again. Does the Philippines plan to
Yes.
give the US military access
Let
to
me
more...
stop you right there. The answer to that is no. The Philippines has no plan to create any more bases or give access to any more bases. So, yes. So,
Okay.
if there's anything else you'd like
Yes,
to ask,
well,
I'm happy
given
to.
that they've been granted access to 9 bases so far, are you concerned that this is part of this could be provoking the strong actions by China in the South China Sea, or do you actually consider these sites as protection in case of a conflict between the US and China?
No, I think that's turning the situation on its head. These are reactions to what has happened in the South China Sea, to the aggressive actions that we have had to deal with, the water cannoning, the lasers, the collision, the blocking of our bangka, our fishermen, the putting of barriers across Scarborough Shoal. This is a reaction to that. This did not cause that. That happened before we had EDCA.
And just to clarify, that's a categorical no to more EDCA bases?
No, definitely. No. The Philippines has no plans to open or to establish more EDCA bases.
As my follow-up question, are you concerned that a Donald Trump administration would not offer the same ironclad commitment to the Philippines that the Biden administration has repeatedly made as recently as last week? And what impact would that have on the Philippines' strategy of pushing back against Chinese actions in the South China Sea, such as publicizing incidents?
Well, I think it would be artful to say that we do not watch closely the political cycle that is ongoing in the United States. Because inevitably, if there is a change in government, if President Biden is reelected, then we have a fairly solid ground to base all our positions on, because we have already spoken with him. But inevitably, if there is a change in government, then there will be changes in policy. We do not know what those are. But I believe that what we have agreed with the United States are beyond politics, and I think that since they almost rise to treaty agreements, those treaty agreements must be honored, and that I think puts us on good ground. But I will not deny that we look. Certainly, we examine who's going to be in charge. Who's going to, in case the former President Trump is reelected, what will be the changes that will affect us? It's hard to say. It's all speculation for now.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you once again for being with us today. Mr. President, your government has been saying that this is related to the South China Sea, my question, particularly on oil and gas exploration. Your government has said that it was prepared to guarantee, and I quote, unimpeded and peaceful exploration of all natural resources within the EEZ and other areas where we have jurisdiction. May I ask, how does your government plan to accomplish that, and what will that entail?
That's a fairly sensitive question, because let me categorize those areas that are ripe or that we are looking at for exploration. There are those who are in non-conflict areas. That's what we defined. That's what we term them as now: the conflict areas and non-conflict areas. And as far as the Philippines is concerned, if those prospective reserves are within the EEZ, conflict area or otherwise, then any exploration should be conducted by the Philippines. So if that, however we choose to do it, if we choose to do it by ourselves, if we choose to do it in partnership with other corporations, or which will probably will be the case, because we don't have the capacity for the very large scale heavy engineering in terms of exploration. But how that's going to be done, because in our case in the Philippines, it is really not a matter of choice. Let me take it back a couple of steps. In the Philippines, we are presently trying to shift our mix of power generation from fossil fuels away from fossil fuels towards renewables. Now, that doesn't happen in an instant. You do not flick a switch and you're suddenly all renewable. You have a transition period, which is turning out to be much more complicated than everyone thought. But anyway, in the Philippines, we have decided that LNG is going to be our transition fuel. And that is why it is imperative for the Philippines to now examine and to see, to guarantee the supply of LNG to our country so that we have sufficient power. Because it's not enough that we maintain the levels of power generation that we have now. Well, with all the plans that we have, essentially to industrialize the Philippines, it's essentially to enter into the digital space, all of these things require a great deal of power. And so it is important to the Philippines that we explore those reserves and see exactly what there are and how we go about exploiting them and bringing that gas supply to the Philippines. So we are doing our best. I think we will, of course, to keep it simple. I think the prevailing term these days is pick the low-hanging fruit. So the low-hanging fruit will be those reserves that are within our EEZ, that are not in a conflict area. We'll attend to that first, and then we'll see what else that we can do. We need them all, though. We need them all. Even if we do well with the non-conflict areas or reserves, we still have to look at all the others, whether they be in conflict areas or otherwise.
Follow up, please.
Just a follow-up, Mr. President.
Very quick.
Has progress been made on the oil and gas stocks between the Philippines and China? Last year, if I'm not mistaken, both countries have agreed to resume oil and gas stocks. So has progress been made? If yes, why? And if no, then why not? Well,
we always come up against the same argument, or between China and the Philippines, because when we say that we would like to explore, they insist that these areas are in Chinese territory, and therefore Chinese law must prevail. We, of course, do not accept that. We say this is Philippine territory, and therefore Philippine law should prevail. That's really where the sticking point is. Even before I came into office, that was already the situation we're in. I hear a great many optimistic reports that they're saying that we have agreed, we've come to an agreement, but I haven't really seen something that we can we can use to work forward. In other words, I don't really think we have a proper agreement, and it really comes down to that issue: which law will apply? And the reason that there is an argument is that China claims that these territories belong to China. We dispute that, and that's where the problem is.
That's right, President, guys.
May we have Ms. Joanna Balearan of GG Press, please.
Buti pa yan, pinagtatanggol niya views ng Philippine Sea.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Joanna Balearan from GG Press. Sir, my question is about Japan and the Reciprocal Access Agreement. So, when will the Philippines and Japan sign the agreement? And can you please give us a time frame?
For
the RAA, sir.
For the?
RAA, the Reciprocal Access Agreement with Japan.
The reciprocal. Yeah, we're working on that. Yes, we are. Malapit na. Sorry, that will be coming soon. we spoke about it again with Prime Minister Kishida when I was in Washington. There aren't any real conflicts in principle. It's just a question of getting the language down and defining precisely how it's going to work, the logistical systems and how that's going to work. But it should not take very much longer. I think we're very close to completion on that.
Okay, sir. Just a follow-up. Filipino comfort women who are still seeking World War II justice and reparations are raising concerns about the RAA. How do you ensure that this agreement doesn't compromise the country's interest? And which country do you think should take custody of Japanese soldiers committing crime on Philippine soil?
I cannot see how the reciprocal agreement would affect any of that. It is entirely. It essentially talks about that Japan allows us to make ports of call in Japan and vice versa. How it will possibly affect the issue about comfort women and what allegations that are made against war criminals during the Second World War. I cannot see how it will bleed into that. I think it's quite distinct and discreet in its effect.
About the custody, sir.
About the
custody.
Of
the custody of erring Japanese servicemen on Philippine soil. Which country do you think should take custody of these Japanese servicemen in case RAA is approved?
Oh. It's not the same as a visiting forces agreement. That I think is that's not similar. The visiting we've had problems with that with the Americans, some American forces, as we all know. But that's not it's very, very different from what the reciprocal agreement will be with the Japanese. It's not going to be as if it's their base and their seamen will come down and will go into the city and go into. Well, I don't think that's a part of the agreement.
Thank you so much. May we have Mara Cepeda of the Straits Times, please?
Hello, Mr. President.
Hello.
Sir, you already reiterated the position of the Philippines regarding the ICC.
Yes.
And so, sir, I raised the issue of the Philippines advocating for an international rules-based order. We're pushing for it when we are resisting Beijing's aggressive actions against the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. But we are opting out of the Rome Statute when an adverse case has been lodged against us. So, sir, is the rules-based order only applicable to the Philippines when it's convenient for us?
What is the rule about the ICC? When do they adopt jurisdiction? They adopt jurisdiction in a country, or they have jurisdiction in a country when no judicial system is working, is functioning, no police no police force is functioning. In other words, that probably there is war. And none of these issues about war crimes and all of this are being attended to, simply because the administration, especially in the judiciary, especially in law enforcement, are not functioning. That is the reason why we are saying we are well within the rules. It is their rule. It is the rule of ICC that they come in when there is no judiciary. They come in when there is no police force. We have a judiciary. The Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice, is sitting right here. He will explain to you how healthy and robust and how active the judiciary is. The police force, I think, is the same thing. So that is the reason. It is not. We are well within. We are well within international law when we take the position of not recognize the jurisdiction of ICC in the Philippines.
One follow-up, sir. So if the ICC issues an arrest warrant against former President Duterte, will the Philippine government hand him over?
Will we do what?
Will the Philippine government hand him over if the ICC...
We don't recognize the warrant that they will send to us.
So that's a no?
That's a no.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
last week you said that you were horrified at the prospect of a gentleman's agreement between former President Duterte and China.
Wouldn't you be?
Of course.
I think we all should, right?
And you said as well, Mr. President, that he should be held accountable. And since then, experts have said that any such agreement compromising PH sovereignty or territory would be a violation of not just the 2016 arbitral ruling, but Philippine law. So my question for you, sir, is how do you intend to hold former President Duterte accountable? Are there any actions being taken on this front?
Well, we still have to find out what it is all about. We cannot. I've tried to get in touch with former officials of the previous administration who could possibly have been involved in these discussions. And I have to tell you, I haven't gotten a straight answer out of anyone. One party says, one person says there's no agreement. Another says, no, there was talk, but it's only status quo. No, there was. And another one will say there was an agreement. So I'll go back to the three questions that I asked when this subject came up. Number one, the first question I want answered is, was there an agreement in fact? I think by now we can see that in fact there was a secret agreement. And what verifies that, and what I think for me at least convinces me that there was in fact a secret agreement is the insistence of the Chinese government that there was a secret agreement. I do not think the Chinese government, I don't think Beijing will just make up and so just out of nowhere say there was a secret agreement when there was no such thing. All right, so I think, to my mind, that is sufficient to me to prove to me that there was such an agreement. The second question I need answered is, what is contained in that secret agreement? What did we agree to? And why did we agree to that? What exactly is it that we compromised? Number two. Number three, this is a critical question. Why did you keep it secret? Why is there not one single document that contains that agreement? Why is there not one shred of evidence that can show that this agreement exists? Why, when the transition period between the previous administration to this administration, did no one mention a secret agreement? Why was it kept secret? These are very simple questions, but I'm finding a great deal of difficulty finding answers for them. Because I hear one thing and another thing and another thing and another thing. It's all very maraming palusot. In other words, I don't know how to translate that in English, but maraming palusot.
Let me add a fourth question to that, Mr. President. What happens if you find out that there might be a legal liability on the part of former President?
I cannot see how there could possibly be a legal liability. There is no evidence of any agreement.
Okay.
Is there a document that is signed? I'd love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does not affect the Philippines. And if there is, I've said that before, when this first came up a few months ago, and it turns out that the Chinese are insisting that there's a secret agreement, and perhaps there is. And I said, I don't know anything about the secret agreement. Should there be such a secret agreement, I am now rescinding it. So I've rescinded it, if indeed it exists. We are so far from getting to the truth, to the nub of the thing. We are so far away from it yet that it's very hard to give a reaction to those questions. Let's get those three questions answered. We've answered the first one. Now, what is contained in that secret agreement, and why was it kept secret? Those are the two questions left. Once we get those three answers, real answers, then we will know what to do.
Just a quick follow-up.
So yun mga kababayan, narinig nyo yung mga tanong sa kanya, yung mga sagot niya talagang perfect. Diba? Sa secret agreement, ayan, nako, viral talaga. Sabi ko naman sa inyo guys, aalamin at aalamin niya yan. Hindi titigil yan. Kasi ang soberenya ng bansa ang nakataya dito. Kailangan po natin yun kasi maraming gas doon na makukuha. At para yun sa mga Pilipino mangingisda. Marami sila doon mga makukuhang isda. Kaya ipapaglaban niya yan. Ano man ang mangyari. Tingnan natin sa susunod na mga araw mga kababayan. Magaling talaga ang Pangulo na sumagot. Grabe. Ewan ko lang kung si Garutay ang nandyan. Hindi ko alam kung anong sasabihin niya, no? But anyway, ayan, ano po ang masasabi niyo? Comment down below na lang mga kababayan. At siyempre, yan ang matalinong presidente. Hindi kayang tibagin kahit pinahiya sa maraming tao. Yan, katulad ni Robles. Ay, nako, ewan ko na lang. Thank you guys. See you guys on my next upload video. Bye, bye, bye. And babos. God bless Philippines.